The screen feels so much less powerful outdoors. It's easier to just tune it out, to see through it, to see the trees, to see the branches, to see the river. I can see it. The question that is being come back to is around, is it important to be visible? And there's some anger arising around that question. Interesting. Anger arising around invisibility, I guess. Or maybe just pent up energy. I keep looking down because this is on a stand on a bench where there's ice, and I wouldn't be surprised if everything toppled over. There's so much conditioning in this body, in me, Chelsea, around being invisible, even pre-illness, of making the self small, identity around not being seen. I shouldn't be seen, so what I should be is supportive, humble, generous, a foundation for other people. Oh, here comes the train. This will be in the background for sure. How visible the train is. Never hiding, never making itself small. So there's conditioning around invisibility, and then the lived physical experience of having an illness that's not, by and large, perceptible externally. So then that's perceived as invisible, but there's a stark contrast between what's actually happening that isn't seen. Whereas before the invisibility, there was like an okayness with being small, because that fed into the identity. Oh, good, I am doing my job. I'm being the me in the way that the me needs to be the me. But either way, visible or invisible, it doesn't matter. And this is not just in terms of disability or conditioning, it's also awakening. It doesn't matter whether it's visible or invisible. Of course invisibility happens. Of course we can't see everything that there is to see in other people or understand them. Of course it's hard enough to understand our own experience when we're identified and separate. And then when we're in the flow of life and we're not separate, there isn't a need to understand or see what needs to be seen as seen. And if something isn't seen, then it'll come back when it's important. But if not being seen feeds an identity, if invisibility feeds an identity of being the small one, or resentment, or fear of being seen, all of these like contractions, that's not authentic. And on the flip side, being seen, if that's a contraction against fear of not being a self, if I need to inflate and be special, or take up space, or announce my awakening to the world, or my specialness in being the non-person, or the disabled one, or like all of these stories, like they're so silly to even name, but it happens. That's also inauthentic. But we can feel into both sides when they're true. So much of these videos have been this authentic, oh, here I am seeing this person for the first time who happens to be me. I'm loving it. That's a word, loving it, but the aliveness is here to validate and feel, oh, that was never allowed when there was identity around being the small one. But I don't have to be that person anymore. I couldn't. I couldn't if I tried. It's just fallen and cracked open and crumbled, and now there's just the seeing of the value of her, of Chelsea. So paradoxical, because when the self has fallen away, it's not like there's no one here. There's this beautiful person here, but they're not taken to be different than everything else, and it's allowed to be appreciated for what fully it is. And so much of the experience here still is invisibility, not being seen, and being okay with that. Being okay that I don't need validation in one way or the other of either specialness or humility. Yeah, it's interesting that the anger comes up. It's like a fire in the chest, and anger is just a word for it. That's the word that comes up, but it's an energy around invisibility, and I think a lot of harm can happen around these topics of forcing people to either be seen or unseen. Yeah, it's such a life-altering experience to feel permission to just be true. And either way, it's okay. It's okay if you're not actually expressing the authentic life impulse of what would be here if there were no conditioning or no feeling of separateness. It's okay if there's separateness that's being expressed and there's a making small of myself or inflating myself. But the contraction that happens with that is also welcome as part of the aliveness. It just doesn't realize that it's not separate. It's welcome. It's all welcome. It's just a part that doesn't realize that it's welcome. So it's almost like this whole process of the me falling away is welcoming. Actively. not a passive thing. It's not a autopilot, tune out, check out, fall away kind of thing. It's a very active, like, life. Participating in life and realizing that it's not mine. And that this person is so special. These people, all of us, all of you, this bird chirping, this river coursing, it's all so special and important. And even sitting outside with this screen is a seeing of how it's not separate from these trees. This technology is not separate from the sand, the mud, the ripples in the water. It's not separate. There can be a lot of contracting experiences that come from it because it has a way of convincing us, inflating the ego, inflating the me, inflating the separation that pulls us out of full direct experience. Screens and technology are really powerful in the way that the mind is in that, but ultimately it's the same. It's okay and it's not okay. It's the paradox of all of it. There is problems. There are problems. Avoidable problems. There's suffering, and it's okay. It's all okay. Can we let the suffering illuminate that it's all okay, so that the suffering that can be avoided is not rippling out of the unavoidable pain of being alive. Having a mind that we feel it creates separation, certain belief of separation in certain ways. So these are all words that are coming up, and now this energy is just feeling no more words are needed to be added right now. There's nothing that can be added to this. There's nothing that can be added to your experience in this moment. Whether that's seen by anyone else and visible, or unseen and invisible. What does that even really mean? Can we go deeper than that?